Hi, everybody. So this is Anthony Chu. I am the AppScan Application Security Technical Advisor. So just a bit of background about myself. I have been with HCL for a little bit over, I think, 3 years now, as working as an AppSec Technical Advisor. And prior to this, I was also in the supply chain space slash AppSec. Overall, I've been with application security in this, in this space for over 10 years. And I'm happy to be here today to deliver this workshop where we're going to be covering HCL AppScan and specifically around the dynamic analysis capability. So we do have a full kind of jam-packed agenda for today. There are going to be some topics that I'm quite excited to present and share with everybody here. A few new features, new capabilities that will make your life easier as AppScan user, or if you're new to AppScan, hopefully some of these content will give you some sense on what AppScan can do when it comes to performing dynamic analysis against your applications. As Peter mentioned earlier, if you have any questions or if you have any issues throughout the session, feel free to use the chat or the questions panel. We do have a couple of my colleagues monitoring the chat, and we'll be able to support you and help you out if there's any problems, right? So let's keep this fairly interactive, and if you have any questions or anything, just feel free to engage us. Okay. So just a bit of a background about HCL for those who are not too familiar with HCL. So HCL is a global company that has that is present in over 50 different countries, and HCL as a company is in various different verticals. So primarily, for those who are familiar with HCL's background, you might be aware that we are in consulting business, specifically things like SAP, Microsoft, and the company itself, we're more than 200,000 employees strong at this point. So HCL software, on the other hand, is the software arm, and this is really where AppScan resides in, so with HCL software, HCL has taken full, ownership on, research, development, sales, marketing, delivery on a suite of software products, and AppScan is part of that portfolio. But there's also other software like BigFix, Commerce, Connections, Digital Experience, Unica. So HCL software as a group, it's we are a full-fledged software development organization that has the kind of the full gamut of what needs to be supported from a software development and support perspective, and AppScan is very well falling into that as well. And speaking of AppScan, I do want to just have a quick slide on a bit of the history for those who are unfamiliar with where AppScan came from. So initially, AppScan was developed by, as you can see on the top left here, by a company called Sanctum, and later acquired by Watchfire, and then subsequently acquired by IBM. Right? So that's where AppScan has resided for a large majority of time with IBM. And it is not until 2017, 2018, where IBM entered into a IP partnership with HCL to help with research and development and support. And it is not until 2019 when HCL finalized the entire acquisition of AppScan as a product. So that's where we are today. So we are AppScan is a fully owned product by HCL. And since the transition over to HCL, I'm actually really happy to see that there's actually a lot of improvement being made to the product under HCL's leadership. So, we've pretty much tripled our development team size, from a support perspective, we have double the amount of staff we have in the support organization, and over the course of month and years, right, we have added a lot of new features, new capabilities that support many of the use cases that our customers are looking to achieve today when it comes to running application security tests against their applications, right? So I'm really excited to be in this place where we are with HCL, and then really be able to showcase from time to time what these new features are, what are these new capabilities, and how can it help solve many of your business challenges around AppSec testing. Another thing that we are quite proud of is the fact that HCL AppScan is now a leader in the Gartner Magic Quadrant. Actually, we have been since 2021, which is last year, and this is mainly due to the observation that AppScan has made a lot of significant improvement on various different areas, such as providing things like how to best fix vulnerabilities that are found in your application, not just showing you where the problems are, but guiding through the users how to perform the fixes, and down to language specific guidance, language specific documentations. So it's in areas like these, and also improvements in the DAST scanning aspect, right? So as the market evolves over time with the introduction of new web technologies, our DAST scanner has really been able to keep up with some of these latest updates to web development framework, and then be able to scan a wide variety of applications, not just in the DAST perspective, but also from a static analysis point of view as well. And also IaaS as well. That's one of the features that many customers are looking for, is the ability to do security analysis using a agent type of deployment model, which really simplifies the process of scanning. IaaS is actually a solution that we also have a workshop for. I believe we just had one I think about 1 or 2 months ago. So do keep keep on watch for some of the workshops that we are putting forward. I think we are releasing these workshops. We're making these available, these workshops available on like a bi-weekly to a monthly basis. So yeah, just keep a watch on the emails and the announcements on when some of these workshops are made available. Okay. So let's get into the agenda and kind of the core content of today's presentation. So as you know, this session is going to be primarily focused around AppScan's dynamic analysis capabilities. So with that in mind, we're actually going to be diving into some more in-depth features and ways that you can actually leverage AppScan to facilitate scanning. And I'll walk you through what these more quote-unquote advanced features are. We're going to be experiencing them through the workshop. And from a product perspective, so for those who have heard about what some of the products, and I'll talk about what's in the portfolio as well later on, but we're going to be looking at it from the lens of AppScan Standard, okay, which is our on-prem the client DAST scanning solution. And also we're going to be looking at it from the cloud aspect. So we have the AppScan on cloud, and see how the two work together to achieve some of these use cases, these goals. And that is going to be done through the instructor-led lab, which is going to be the second part of this workshop today. And then, yeah, as always, if you have any questions or if you encounter any issues, just let us know and we'll be happy to assist. Okay. So let's talk about AppScan a little bit from a broader perspective to set the stage on really what AppScan is and where our focuses are, when we talk about application security. So the three themes that we have been really focusing on is around these three pillars. So the ability to do security within DevOps is a fairly important theme. So yes, we need to do be able to conduct scans with high accuracy, but then when customers are asking about, then how do we automate these scans into our CI/CD environment? That is very much a core focus on for AppScan. So whether that is, API-based integration or plugin-based integration, and we'll talk about a little bit more on what these types of integration are. But be able to do security, and scans within your DevOps cycle is very much an important focus. Another one, as I mentioned earlier, focusing on the fix, right? So, scan accuracy, scan performance, that is very much, top of mind. And I'll also demonstrate that, through our workshop on what kind of toolings are available to help with these aspects. And then when it comes to giving you better control, visibility, so let's say in the lens of a CISO or from the lens of a security manager wanting to see how we are evolving over time from a security risk perspective, we have a suite of enterprise management capabilities around user management, around application management, and that's really done on the platform level, right? So this really gives you better governance, visibility into your your AppSec testing, and just to see if we are really making good progress in our fixes, right? So yeah, so these are the three pillars that kind of drive AppScan, and then I'll be walking you through from a demo / workshop perspective on where these capabilities are and how we are able to address these aspects. So from a integration to DevOps perspective, as we mentioned earlier, there are various different tie-in points for AppScan into your DevOps cycle. So whether that is when you're conducting, when you're in the design code, the build phase, whether, you may be asking, how can we introduce things like static analysis or source code, source composition analysis for your source code. So there's various different plugins. So you can see that, we have plugins for Jenkins, for Azure DevOps, for GitHub. And just to be able to automate scans on that level. And then when you move forward to, you're in that build test phase, the ability to run dynamic analysis or interactive analysis. So there's various different tie-in points, right, that are suitable for different types of scans throughout your DevOps cycle. And when you're really in that operations, when you have the application deployed, when you are doing that DevOps loop, right, and wanting to be able to track issues that have been that has popped up, and so things like integration to your defect tracking software such as Jira, ServiceNow. So we have different plugins, right, for these tools, and the ability to just do that closed loop, right, and continuously improve your application over time from a security point of view. And just to situate a bit on where AppScan is within this DevOps portfolio. So AppScan is part of our DevSecOps portfolio within HCL software. So as you can see, AppScan here is located within the the secure phase, right? But throughout the DevOps cycle, whether it is in your planning stage for workflow automation or for source code management, or things like value stream management as well, right? So during your code build or deploy phase, we have actually different DevOps products that helps with these different aspects of your development lifecycle. AppScan obviously fits into this as an overall DevSecOps operation, but I just want to make awareness that we have a suite of DevOps products available to you to enhance your development efficiency, giving you better visibility across your deployment lifecycle. One interesting product I do want to mention here is HCL Accelerate. I'm gonna have a slide on kind of the upcoming workshops, which actually you'll see that next week we have a workshop on HCL Accelerate. This is a product that helps with maximizing your DevOps investment for your value stream management, right? So it's really around the ability to see your DevOps lifecycle, see if there's bottlenecks, and then understand which part of your DevOps is facing issues, and then just having that visibility across different components is really what HCL Accelerate brings to the table. AppScan actually fits into this quite well. As you know, AppSec testing, once integrated into your development lifecycle, you want to be able to track and see if security scans are being conducted. If a scan has failed, or if a scan is not progressing well, then HCL Accelerate can actually alert you on that interruption or that particular bottleneck as well, right? So yeah, so I'll show you. I'll have a slide to show you what are the upcoming workshops, and I think Accelerate is going to be an interesting topic that many will find interesting. Okay, so let's dive into AppScan just a little bit deeper now. I want to, before we get into kind of what technologies we have, right, I want to just be able to situate ourselves a little bit on where our discussion is going to be focused on for today's workshop. So within the AppScan portfolio, we have two main pillars of capabilities and solutions. So on the left, you see AppScan on Cloud, which is our cloud suite of capabilities, which includes static, interactive, dynamic analysis, open source analysis, or sometimes people call it the source composition analysis. And this is all in one kind of, all these capabilities are all in one, fit into the platform, for AppScan on Cloud, right? So these are different capabilities within the platform that you can, enable, that you can leverage as part of your, the scanning requirements that you have for your organization. On the on-prem side, we have AppScan Enterprise, AppScan Source, and AppScan Standard. And these components are more focused and aligned to the different technologies. So for instance, AppScan Standard is focused on DAST. Source is focused on static analysis, where Enterprise is then the overarching enterprise management console for DAST and SAST as well. For our discussion today, we're going to be focusing on two components, as we mentioned earlier, and let me just highlight that. So we're going to be looking at it from the DAST point of view, so that would include AppScan Standard here. And also, we're going to be looking at it from a cloud point of view, which is the dynamic analysis capability within AppScan Cloud. And we'll look at how they integrate with one another, right? And what kind of efficiency you can look to achieve by leveraging both capabilities or products. Okay, and then when we talk about the different technologies, so this just pivots a little bit differently on what we mean, when we say when we say we're doing static analysis, or when we say we're doing software composition analysis, interactive or dynamic. I'm not going to go into too much of a detail on some of these other ones, but just to kind of let everyone know that we're going to be focusing on this pillar here, right? So the dynamic analysis. And really what that is to the focus around dynamic analysis is really to scan your web application while it is live. So, think of when your app is deployed in a QA or pre-production stage, right? And then the way how we conduct it is through what we call the black box testing, by sending actual, attacks and evaluate the responses, right? So just want to be able to situate ourselves a little bit on what the focus on is going to be for today's discussion. Is going to be on this pillar right here. Okay. So I want to just quickly outline some of the top new features that we have came up recently within our kind of DAST domain, right? And this really applies to both AppScan on Cloud. Well, some are AppScan on Cloud focused, some are AppScan Standard focused. Yeah, one thing I am really excited to introduce to everybody, for those who are unfamiliar with what has been released recently, is actually the ability to do automated API scanning using a imported Postman collection file. And I'll talk about this feature a little bit more in detail later, but this has been one of the things that our customer has been asking a lot, is the ability to make API scanning easier, right? So in the past, AppScan has different ways that helps with API scanning. There's a method leveraging AppScan as a proxy to capture traffic. But I think this really takes it to a new level where, with the simple import of a Postman collection file, you can actually conduct full automated security testing just by using the Postman collection file. This is actually going to be one of the capabilities that I'll be walking you through during the workshop as well. And so you'll get to see kind of how this works and what you can expect to leverage out of this feature. Another exciting feature that we have recently released is the ability to support OTP-based applications. So, for those who have engaged us in the past, I think you might have heard us as that when we talk about supporting different authentications, ways to log into your applications, we always kind of advocated the fact that if you have OTP or if you have things like CAPTCHA or any kind of MFA mechanism, to try to disable it as much as possible, right? After all, we're not here to test your authentication, we're here to test your application, right? But there's going to be a lot of times where that's just simply not possible. Maybe it's because of the hosting platform that you're using, or if it's just the way how the application is developed, there's not an easy way to disable certain things. So that's the reason why we have added this ability to support time-based OTP, which is what TOTP is, and also URL-generated OTP. I'll walk you guys through what this looks like and where we can configure this in the workshop as well. But this really adds the kind of the ability to cover more applications, right, within your organization and be able to do automated scans fully without having to intervene manually, when it comes to login sequences. So I'm really excited about this new feature as well. Some of the other ones include things like, the added, OWASP Open API Top 10 2019 policy within our reports, and then also the just the regular OWASP Top 10, but then the 2021 version is also now available within our toolings within AppScan on Cloud and AppScan Standard. And there's actually quite a lot of significant improvements on the user interface as well for AppScan on Cloud. Things like single scan views that includes explored data counters, which is something that you see in AppScan Standard, but not so much in the past, right? Within AppScan on Cloud, and the ability to edit issue severity, the ability to view if it was a partial scan, and then be able to take actions accordingly, and also the scan scheduler as well, right? Within AppScan on Cloud, like these are all significant improvements that we have added to the platform. And I'll be happy to show you these capabilities when we get into the workshop section as well. Okay, so with that, we're going to dive into a little bit more on AppScan Standard, and then and just really what this tool is able to do, and then how it supports dynamic analysis and the requirements that you may have around dynamic analysis testing. So for those who are just a little bit unfamiliar with AppScan Standard, and I'll go through some of these quickly because I think many people in the audience here are familiar with AppScan Standard, but just on a high level, right? It's just for when we say AppScan Standard, we are referring to the on-prem thick client that you would install on your desktop, your workstations, and it has the end-to-end capability of configuring, a scan, running a scan, and also viewing the results and generating reports. So it's a kind of an all-in-one tool. Some people also refer to a hacker in the box. So the fact that it can assess your application by sending HTTP requests and injecting payload and evaluate the response of your application. So that's really what it does, right? Is the ability to test for vulnerabilities of your application while it is in runtime. Okay. The focus around AppScan Standard is also to ensure that we can do as many things as automated as much as possible. There are some manual steps that you can add, so things like adding manual explore data, or if it's kind of supporting some more complex authentication mechanisms, there's prompt-based logins. But the real focus around AppScan Standard is really once we have a solid and secure scan configuration in place, like proper authentication, good explore data, you want AppScan to be able to run the whole thing automatically without, user intervention, right? So, and that really comes down to how good of a configuration you can provide. You can give it a simple configuration, but then you may not achieve as good of a coverage. But then once you're able to make a very targeted configuration, you can achieve not only a good coverage, but also making sure everything's done automatically, leveraging AppScan Standard, right? And as we've mentioned before, the technology behind a DAST engine is really just the ability to send requests and then evaluate the response, right? So this is also the reason why we recommend when we test your application that it is a application in your QA or pre-prod stage, because depending on the test policy that you select, if there's some more invasive test, it does have the potential of crashing your application or causing things like buffer overflow. And so that's why we generally don't recommend testing against a prod environment. I mean, you could if you want to, but you got to be really careful there, right? So by testing a QA application, you can actually enable more in-depth test policies, and that will also give you better coverage as well, right? To find out any potential vulnerabilities without having to worry about causing instability or crashing the site. And AppScan actually also has different ways to test your application. So we have something called the AppScan DNS, which is actually a DNS server that we host to validate remote command execution types of attacks. So basically, any types of attacks that does not have a reflection. And when I say reflection, I mean you send a response. You send a request, but then the type of vulnerability does not depend on the response. Then we can actually inject a payload, which triggers a DNS request, and that's how we can validate some of the remote command execution types of attack. And this is really innovative, in my opinion. As a way to just have a very in-depth coverage on your application and finding things that other DAST toolings may not be able to, right? Okay, so this new feature around using Postman collection file, and which is what I mentioned earlier. This is I'll walk you guys through during the the workshop, but really the point I want to drive home here is that this really makes the process of scanning API a lot simpler. You can actually achieve scanning your API endpoints via two simple steps. You can just first of all import the collection file, and then secondly choose what you want to do with the collection file, like whether you want to explore or you want to do an explore plus test. It just makes the whole process so much more simpler, right? Obviously, you can actually go into some configurations after you've imported the collection file, and you may want to test your authentication. You may want to make sure what AppScan has selected as your in-session detection pattern is accurate, things like that, which I'll show you as well. But If you don't want to, and you just want to see what happens just for the heck of it, you can just try to import the collection file and just run with it and see what happens, right? Yeah, so again, we'll walk through this capability within the workshop, and we'll dive into this feature a little bit more in detail later. Okay, so OTP again, just another new feature that was introduced in AppScan Standard 10.07. And so this is really the ability to support whether it is a time-based OTP or URL-generated OTP. AppScan is going to validate where the OTP kind of value is going to be inserted into your application, detecting which parameter, which header. So it's able to do that quite well, and you have ways to verify if it has been able to conduct that login successfully. So there's different mechanisms built into the tool as well. I'll walk you through the screens here in the workshop on what are different parameters you can configure. Yeah, so this really adds the additional support, right, for different types of application, specifically around the one-time password support. Okay, so let's also talk a little bit about the cloud, and then we're going to tie into where AppScan Standard fits into the to the overall cloud strategy for AppScan. So when we talk about AppScan Cloud, the first thing I typically would like to just kind of set the stage is that AppScan Cloud is not just a scanning platform, right? So as opposed to AppScan Standard, which is a DAST scanner, AppScan Cloud is first and foremost almost a vulnerability management platform where you have the ability to create applications. You can tie certain ratings or parameters or things like business business impact to your application, assign different attributes to it, and with a application created, that is where your scans would reside. Okay, so that's where your scans like DAST scans, SAST scans, or IAST is going to be included. And the benefit of having it structured in such a manner is that you can then surface things like number of issues across all the scans for a particular application. You can evaluate from a dashboard perspective and detect what are the most common vulnerabilities within my application. It also allows you to track your application risk rating over time as well, right? Like are we answering the questions like are we getting safer over time? Are the vulnerability being fixed by the development team, or are we seeing more issues over time, right? So it gives you that management and visibility across the your entire portfolio of applications, and then also ensuring that the scans are being done on a regular basis, and then generating reports against applications as well, right? So it looks at application security testing from a different dimension, and we'll also be going through the workshop looking at AppScan Cloud as well on looking at these capabilities. So some of the certifications that we have include for AppScan Cloud include the ISO 27001 and also the Open Group. I know we are also in the process of getting our SOC 2 Type 2 compliance. So for those who are in the federal or government space, I think that's going to be relevant to you guys. And so once we have the SOC 2 compliance certifications, then that'll make the deployment approval process of adopting AppScan Cloud a lot easier as well. Okay, so some of the management capabilities, we've kind of talked about like the dashboarding aspect, managing the applications. We'll talk about the policies as well, because you can actually tie industry standard or compliance standard policies to your applications and check for compliance, live, right, against your application. There's different other ways to view, your things like your scans. AppScan presence as well, is one view that you can actually leverage to see which AppScan presence, which is our proxy component to help with scanning your internal application. So you get to see which AppScan presence are deployed. We'll go through these capabilities as well as we get into the demo, but just wanna outline a little bit on, kind of on a high level, right? What are the different, components or modules that are available within AppScan Cloud? Okay, so just a quick, discussion on the application management, application creation aspect. Again, we won't go into too much of a detail here because it's all going to be shown in the workshop. But just as you can see, right, we start by having a list of applications, right? So this is where you can create your own application. This is where you can tie business impact into your application. Oh, don't know what happened there. Yeah, so, and then, things like new issues, active issues are things that can be surfaced and be made visible, right, across a dashboard like this, okay? Creation of an application is also an interesting aspect, which we'll look at during the workshop, but just to show you a little bit on the different parameters you can specify when you are creating a application. So, you can include things like your business impact, right? So this is actually quite important because eventually this is what gets evaluated and compared against your vulnerabilities, and that is what generates your risk rating, right? That's what so it's what generates this column here, risk rating. So it depends on your business impact. Obviously, in this case here, you can specify business units. You can tie it to a particular asset group for better kind of user visibility control. So basically, a user in a particular asset group cannot see the applications that belong to another asset group. Okay, so better user management control for managing large teams of user testers or developers. Okay. And other kind of settings or parameters you can tie to applications include these requirements that you may have. So things like confidentiality requirement, integrity, availability. So these are things that you can leverage if you decide to. Some of these are optional and you don't necessarily have to configure everything that is shown here. But having these configured, it will allow you to better filter, search, or categorize your application by certain, levels, right? If you have, you can say, I want to see all my application that have a high confidentiality requirement, and then see which application has a high risk rating among these applications. So things like that, right, allows you to filter, search, and generate report against a set of applications that has certain, criteria that you specify. Okay, and then policy, as we mentioned earlier, is something that can be tied to a application for live compliance checking. Okay, so so there's different predefined policies that you can select. Things like OWASP top 10, PCI compliance, HIPAA, SANS top 25. So these are the types of policies that you can tie to a particular application. And if your application is let's say in violation with one of these policies, then you can be, it will make that, you will see that, right? You will see which application is not compliant, and perhaps you need to take action against it. We'll walk through this feature during the workshop as well, and you'll get to see where that is configured and what are the different policies available, okay? And the last few topics is really around, wanting to kind of make sure everyone is aware that from a AppScan Cloud perspective, there's a full suite of user roles and user management, as well as asset group management available, all in the name of giving, the administrator or the managers the ability to better manage your users, assign roles, and abstract your applications, and then give visibility to for applications to different user groups. So it has a full suite of role-based management and asset group management built in. I think you'll be happy to hear that when you are looking at AppScan Cloud, it's these we don't restrict number of users regardless of what subscription you have with AppScan Cloud. So from a user management perspective, you can you don't have to worry about inviting too many people or things like that, right? We want to make sure the platform can support the use cases and allow you to collaborate with the team as much as you see fit. So okay, and so focusing down now from a AppScan Cloud perspective, let's look at some kind of capabilities that we have specifically around dynamic analysis in AppScan Cloud, and also how that integrates to AppScan Standard. Now that we've covered AppScan Standard and Cloud, how does this overall kind of architecture would fit in together, right? So one thing many people would have, when we talk about cloud is, how do you scan internal applications? So with AppScan Cloud, you have the ability to deploy something called the AppScan Presence, okay, which is a lightweight application that resides within your internal network that kind of bridges the communication between AppScan on cloud, right, and your internal site. The way how AppScan Presence work is that it establishes a outbound secure tunnel via HTTPS protocol to AppScan on cloud, and it is through that tunnel that the communication between our cloud and your private site takes place. This has the benefit of, so for a lot of organization which, does not have restriction. So, from a firewall perspective, right, there's oftentimes a lot of inbound restrictions on the firewall side. But because this is a outbound connection, it makes the deployment process a lot easier, right? So all you need is to ensure that you are not blocking a outbound connection from an HTTPS point of view, and there's no inbound firewall hosts that need to be opened, right? So typically your infrastructure guys like that when no inbound host needs to be created. Okay, and then when we talk about integration between AppScan Standard to AppScan Cloud, you actually also have the ability to leverage AppScan Standard and its configuration capabilities, to configure a scan to your exact liking or to your exact, specification, how you want the scan to run, and then upload that scan template or scan configuration to the cloud, right? So it kind of gives you the ability to manage your AppScan Cloud scans offline as well, in terms of pushing the scan results, scan configuration to the cloud. And you can actually also pull scan results from the cloud down to AppScan Standard and view it locally within your desktop environment. So it has some nifty integrations built in that allows you to kind of perform these types of activities, right? Some people enjoys using AppScan Standard; they're familiar with it. Some view it as a way to have better control and way to test your to see the findings, to view the findings. But in that case, this integration allows you to get the results from the cloud and then view it offline, on AppScan Standard. Okay, so with that, we're going to move into the hands-on lab. And I'll walk you guys through the kind of getting the environments up later, but I want to just first of all walk us through a little bit on the objectives here. So the hands-on lab is going to be split into two sections. One is going to be AppScan Standard, okay, and then just to see what AppScan Standard provides from the interface, looking at the results, configuring a scan, and also this is where we're going to be looking at the Postman collection files. And also we'll be looking at the cloud in part 2 of the workshop. So we'll look at what the platform provides. We'll walk through the user interface. We'll look at the ability to integrate your scan or push your scan configurations to the cloud. And if we have time, we'll look at also automation. So integrating into CI/CD pipelines. Specifically, we'll be looking at it from Jenkins' point of view. Okay. So let me shift my screen. Let me just minimize this. And okay. And I want to bring up, the email that many of you might have already received. That includes the login instructions or how to access the labs, right? So let me just bring this up. Okay. So you might have received this email from my colleague Kevin. So basically for this workshop, everybody have been assigned 2 resources. One is a AppScan Cloud, temporary account that is available for the duration of the workshop. And then the other thing is a VM machine that you can actually access through remote desktop. So the way we're going to be running through the workshop is something called the instructor-led workshop / demo. So basically what that means is I'll be walking you guys through the different scenarios, and you'll get to follow along and try out the functionalities or the features yourself, right, within your own desktop environment. But if for some reason you are having issues or you cannot access certain things and something just doesn't work, you're free to just follow along with the demo portion, right? You don't necessarily have to walk through it yourself. But I think with a workshop and the fact that you have it hands-on will enhance the learning experience. It will give you a better appreciation or understanding on how things are structured and why why things are kind of set up the way it is, and it'll give you a better experience overall, right? So if you open up the PDF within the attachment here, and I'll walk you guys through. Looks like I have some problem rendering this. Download this and view it offline. But we should have some instructions on how to log in, and it just includes screenshots on. Yeah, so here we go. So the first thing is for AppScan Cloud, check your inbox and see if you receive an invitation. Okay, to just make this bigger. Yeah, so if you have gotten an email from cloud@appscan.com, and basically just follow the process of accepting the invitation. And it's going to ask you to create an account if you don't already have one. And then, so there's an account creation, and then you just basically log in with your ID. Okay, so let me show you what that looks like. So let me, actually, you know what? Before we look at that, let me just walk you through the remote desktop portion as well. So the first thing is on the cloud access, right? AppScan Cloud. The other one is the workshop virtual machine. Okay. So for the workshop virtual machine, there is a spreadsheet that is attached in the email, and then that's where you need to you need to open and then locate your name. Okay. So the way how this works is that check for the third column, and if you have registered to the workshop, it should show your name, your first name, and the first letter of your last name in this column here, so you can search for it. Okay, and then what you need to do then is here. Let me just take the first one for example. So if I'm this one here, then what I need to do is copy the IP address. Okay. And take note also on the username and password here for the RDP. Okay, so I do have one for my machine, so I'm not going to use the list here. But basically, just open up remote desktop on your computer. So in my case, I have Windows, so it's just called the remote desktop connection. If you have a Mac, there's also Microsoft Remote Desktop that's described in the PDF in the email on how to use that application. But in my case, I'm just gonna put in my IP here. Okay, so just paste in the IP address. And then for the credentials, just leverage what we provided in the email body. So it's AppScan admin, and then okay. So all I'm entering is the password here, W at Watchfire AppScan here. So just copy that and then paste it into the the password field in Remote Desktop. If it asks for this, certificate, just click yes. Okay, I have a couple of things open, but if you are able to see, this desktop here, then that means you're successfully logged into Remote Desktop. Okay. And again, if you have any login issues or access issues to the Remote Desktop environment, just drop a message on the questions panel or the chat. We'll be happy to help you out. And let me show you also the cloud login. So if you open a Chrome browser within this environment here, click on this URL on the top right, the EU HCL AppScan on Cloud. So notice that for the workshop, we're actually using our Western European data center